All right, so let's talk dark matter versus God. All right, I posted a link on my community tab here today, and I did a video on this. It's a long video. It just once again the volume stunk. I was like, man, very tinny. So I deleted that video. Frustrating. So I'm gonna do while I'm walking, kill two birds with one stone. I know what I want to say. It's pretty easy if you just read something. So frustrating. So I posted a comment. Scientist, quote, dark matter, same scientist, God doesn't exist. And a couple guys, just silly, commented about how wrong I was and how ignorant I am. I shouldn't opine about this. And then you just, look, these people, they're scientisms. They fall for the scientism. And you said, okay, so prove to me dark matter exists. There isn't any. There's no proof of it whatsoever. None. You cannot prove dark matter exists. Another guy says, well, we can't explain how the universe is expanding, so it's got to be dark matter. That's what scientists believe. Thus, it's factual. No, it's not. It's not factual. First of all, the universe expanding. Oh my, it's just the whole thing. But anyway, so I chastised this one guy. I said, dude, pull it. I didn't say it like this. I'm thinking it though. So I said, okay, so how much of the universe, how much dark matter exists in the universe? And he said like 27%. No, the current theory is about 85%. So I didn't know what he's talking about. Then he says, well, according to Google, and I said, dude, are you freaking according to Google, what is this? Anyway, it's embarrassingly dumb. I'm not saying this guy's dumb. I'm saying he reads The Economist magazine, I guarantee it. The whole reason is the people who read The Economist, they do it so they can sound like they're smart. Look at me, I'm reading The Economist. And The Economist is just tripe. It's like the USA Today. If you know anything about newspapers in the late 80s, USA Today had basically short articles written basically for fifth graders, literally, and very easy to read with lots of pictures and colors. Is literally dumbing down of society. Unlike the Wall Street Journal, which had no color back then, had no sports page, no cartoons, the USA Today was going to be your way for every man to get the news according to what every man can read. And that's what The Economist is. And sadly, a lot of scientism believers, not science believers, scientism follows the same thing. So I went to my man Peter White, WOIT. His website's called Not Even Wrong Blog. He's a mathematician over at Columbia. I was reading his book. I've been reading it for a while. Not Even Wrong, written about 15 years ago about the string theory and how the particle dynamics of physics. It's amazing how brutal academia is about non-believers in terms of string theory, superstring theory. It's very, very interesting because he talks about kind of like the history of the super colliders and all this stuff. And I just chuckle because there's a guy named Lawrence out of, I forgot where he's out of, in the 1930s who came up with the first super collider. And it required a hell of a lot of energy to run. And he, as it got bigger and bigger, he needed more and more energy, which cost more and more money. So he was given a Rockefeller Foundation. And this is where all starts getting like, the Rockefeller Foundation was going to give him like $1.5 million. And then World War II broke out. So they reneged on that, obviously because of war. But then when the atom bomb won the war for us, because I was using Hiroshima based off this guy's magnet, which was used in the Manhattan Project to use in Japan for the atom bomb. And so after the war, everyone's like kissing the butts of physicists. And so now this guy, instead of getting $1.5 million from the Rockefeller Foundation, got millions and millions from the government. I forgot what's called off the top of my head. Anyway, so I started thinking, isn't that ironic? Because we know the atom bomb, there's no absolute video evidence of the atom bomb in Hiroshima. What you see from the guy in a plane, that's actually going over Nagasaki, just FYI. There's no evidence an atom bomb was deployed in Hiroshima, none. Now, I don't know about Nagasaki, I don't know. I haven't researched it. My inclination is if we don't have any evidence of Hiroshima, and what they show us is them going over Nagasaki, I have my doubts about Nagasaki too. Because you think about it, Hiroshima, people still lived there, crops still grew, radiation was what? Minimal at best. Hell, Chernobyl's doing fine. Dresden, which wasn't atom bomb, it's just blitzkrieg, was probably worse than Hiroshima, for heaven's sake, or just as bad. So the question comes to my mind is, all right, we don't have any actual evidence of Hiroshima being atom bombed, but we do have evidence of it being flattened, no different than Dresden. So what was it? Was it a methodology to show that physics is the way of the future and scientism? And I was given a quote from Eisenhower, who was bought and paid for by the Rockefellers too, by the way, but how Eisenhower talked about Eisenhower's farewell address, probably his last attempt to rid himself of the demons of being bought and paid for by Rockefellers. How Eisenhower said, watch out, the same speech we talked about military industrial complex, he talked about the educational industrial complex where people, scientists and engineers tinkering in their garage were being displaced by government largesse of foundations and education establishments. He said we got to watch out for this because we don't want scientists to basically be working for the government and basically putting redneck engineers out to pasture, which is exactly what's happening. And so guys like who commented on my video, on my community tab, follow the science, which is completely void of any reality when it comes to dark matter. It's just silly, man. Just read it, for heaven's sake. Just go to Not Even Wrong blog, type that in. He'll come up with a guy from Columbia, a mathematician from Columbia, and type in dark matter in the very first search engine, and you'll see an article that comes up literally just like the last 2 days, talks about this. Some freaking clown over at Boston College, they had a PR piece that said, we found dark matter. It's a complete fake, just to get more government money. Anyway, so then I started thinking, okay, so after Lawrence from 1930s, what happened before that? Oh, before that was Darwin, the Enlightenment. You got to get rid of God. How do we get rid of God? Oh, by the way, and I talked about Steinmetz, who was a big electrical engineer guy who has really had a huge impact on electricity in the United States over from Schenectady. The electrical wizard from Schenectady, my man Bob Bly had written a book about Charles, forgot his last name, I forgot his middle name, Steinmetz. Anyway, just a brilliant guy. Unfortunately, Bob Bly is a big worry about climate change. We're all gonna die. So he says, renewable energy is clean. It's certainly not clean. It's just a fact, Jack, but you can, if you want to keep sniffing the glue, be my guess. Anyway, and he says at Georgetown, Texas, they had 100% renewable energy powered Georgetown, Texas. And I said, yeah, let me see if that's still going on. I bet it's not. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, so we see Einstein, and apparently Steinmetz was very keen on Einstein, just according to this book. I haven't read it too deeply other than this one book, but be that as it may. Because Einstein discovered this, discovered that. He got the Nobel Prize for this, was it photovoltaic? I don't think it's photovoltaic, but anyway, something, photosynthesis, I don't think it was that. But anyway, it wasn't for relativity, his theory of relativity. It was for something else. Anyway, but it's interesting because Einstein worked where? Oh, that's right, he worked at the U.S. Patent Office. So he was able to see many patents. Before they came to fruition, Einstein had first dibs at seeing these patents that came across his desk. Was he able to use those patents to advance his career? No way, that's just crazy talk, Josh. Crazy talk. But at least Einstein said the beauty about the theory of relativity is its simplicity. We don't need, we can test and we get the same. We run experiments, we get the test. We run experiments, we get the test. We have the scientific method down pat. We don't need to put other variables in terms of we can just prove it because it's simple. And it's simple, it can work everywhere. And that's his basis of the theory of relativity. New physics, the string theory, says, no, man. And our theory can be anything, There isn't no uniformity. That's crazy, that's old man talk. The new theory of physics can be string theory, superstring theory. Anything can happen on any universe. Right now, there's a Josh walking here. Another universe, there's a Josh walking the other direction. Another universe, Josh is Hitler. Another universe, Josh is God. You see what I'm saying? That's how the string theory is. Like anything could be anything. That's the book, Not Even Wrong, by Peter White, which I was referring to and read a chapter from in my video that I had to delete because the sound sucked. And hopefully this sounds good here. It looks like it should be. Anyway, so Einstein was at the patent office. That kind of reminded me of Darwin. Could Darwin have possibly stolen the idea of evolution? Macroevolution, mind you. Not adaptation and not microevolution, but macro from, I think it was Wallace, if that's memory serves. I want to say Alfred Wallace or Russell Wallace, I can't remember. I think it was Wallace or Russell, one of those guys. Because he sent his book that he was working on when he was in someplace in the, I guess, South America, if memory serves. He sent it to what's his name, Darwin. And Darwin, did he steal Wallace's or Russell? I can't remember. That guy's stuff. And the answer is probably. And so Darwin went on to infamy as Darwinism, and we all fall on the knees for Darwin. Darwin over God. It's just stupid. I mean, it's literally dumb, the idea that we can change species, especially when human beings have been around for, what, 60,000 years, 40,000 years, something like that, Homo sapiens. And there's not enough time. Not enough time. It's just dumb. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean you're dumb if you believe this. It means the theories are dumb. Can't be proven. Dark matter can't be proven. Yet somehow God is crazy. You can't prove God, so you're crazy. I need some proof. I'm going to go back to believing in dark matter and evolution. That makes sense. Can't prove God. The spaghetti monster in the sky, according to Richard Dawkins, can't prove him. So he doesn't exist, obviously, because I need proof. But I will believe in dark matter. I'll believe in evolution. Stupid. Yes, it is dumb to say that. It's all based on faith. I got no qualm with that. Just admit it's based on faith. Don't admit it's based on evidence, because it's not based on evidence. Anyway, so we go back to Darwin, basically stealing the work of the other guy, Wallace, Russell, I just forgot. I think it was Wallace. And we all know about Darwin now. All right, so now that was beginning of the end of the Christian worldview, all right? By the way, I was reading my man Peter White's book. Very interesting. The first battery was actually called the Baghdad Battery. Isn't that interesting? Like 245 BC. So even before Muhammad, because Muhammad was what, 700 AD? So I don't know if they're, I don't think they're Muslim, I don't know if they're Jews, I don't know what they were back then. They weren't Christians, except before Jesus. But it's interesting. The first battery came out of Baghdad. A lot of stuff came from the Middle East, my friends. You discount it at your own risk, because the Middle East had lots of good knowledge that we've learned from. That's for sure. All right, so now we go back. We say, okay, so we can't prove dark matter, can't prove evolution, but I'm going to get on my Josh's website or whatever YouTube channel, and I'm going to say he should not opine about subjects he's ignorant of when it comes to dark matter, because dark matter can be quantified and we can be measured, but it can't be. I mean, literally, if you can't prove it exists, you can't measure it. That's just a fact. And this is what I'm talking about. Scientism is the need to believe that people in white lab coats know more than you do because they have a pedigree that you can't follow. So and the funny thing is, when I call this guy out, he goes, well, I'm just a computer engineer. You know, basically I don't have time to follow this stuff. And then why are you freaking coming after me there, dog? Why don't you take the time, as opposed to just reading some freaking science.org headline that says, look everybody, we've discovered dark matter. It's so infuriating. Because these people want to sound like they're smart, just like the people who read The Economist. Look at me, I'm reading The Economist. It's a world-traveled magazine of basically morons. That's what it is. I'm sorry to say. If The Economist is what you get, I don't even know if it comes out weekly, monthly, I don't know. Never, I mean, I've read it and I wish I had that time back. If that's what you got, you're using The Economist and you're showing that in your business travel, first class or business class, and you're sitting there in your suit and tie, and you say, I'm going to look at The Economist, so the guy next to me thinks I'm so smart, you look like a putz. You do. Because you don't look smart. You look like a guy who's trying to look smart. I'm just telling you right now, if that bothers you, I don't care. I don't have time for this kind of stuff, man. There's a world that's crumbling. And the reason the world is crumbling is too many people have put off their actually own thinking caps to give it to other people because they're intimidated by these other people who have big words. It's like Webb Du Bois. Everyone's like, Webb Du Bois is so brilliant. He's such an intellectual. Why? Because he spoke in big words? You give me Frederick Douglass any day of the week over that guy. Booker T. Washington, who I can understand. Just because Webb Du Bois uses big words doesn't mean anything to me. But I'm reading The Economist. I'm reading physics.org or whatever. Or it's probably not even that, actually. It's probably some New York Times book review of scientism, from a third party. All right, so again, dark matter, can't prove it. God, can't prove it. I get it. God exists for basically all of humanity in some regard. Now, you might not believe in an Abrahamic God, that's fine. However, a supernatural being has existed basically in all of humanity. Dark matter hasn't existed in all of humanity. Dark matter is created that way for the things we can't explain, especially when it comes to gravitational pull and force and waves. We can't explain it because there is no proof of it. We just attribute it to this thing called dark matter. It's literally just that simple, because otherwise everything else we've told you would be wrong and people fall for it. We don't have time for this, dudes. Life's too short. The empire's crumbling too quickly. You got to stand up to these people. I know this look, this is not my first rodeo. When it came to my position on the vaccines, this before the COVID, I recognized the people who were coming at me hard were fools. They just used whatever the diatribe of the day was. Stay in your lane, the least common denominator. And I'm like, look, not only do I know I'm not dumb, I'm inquisitive, I'm curious. And I'm willing to look at things I'm somewhat ignorant of, as long as it's somewhat interests me, to see if there's another side of the story. And the more hostile you come at me, the more I wonder, why are you so hostile? If you are so convinced of your theory, why would you be so hostile? It doesn't make sense. And that's where I started going after the vaccine people, because I realized they didn't know what they're talking about. But before then, my trial by fire was climate change. I realized that. So wait a second, man. So the 1930s were warm, lots of freaking dust bowls, lots of droughts, huge amounts of hot weather. And you're telling me that CO2 is the cause of warmth, hot weather, droughts, climate change? Yeah, the 1930s, that was happening en masse like we have never seen before, at least in modern era of humanity, going back to the 1850s, basically, United States. And it wasn't that much CO2 parts per million. So what? And people say, oh, how dare you question the science? And they call you all kinds of names. So, okay. So the minute you take that hominin and just attacks, I know you're freaking full of crap. Anyway, long story short, so I said, okay, I get that. So now I know I'm on the right path. Again, if you're not taking heat, you're not very effective. And then when in the vaccine stuff, same kind of vitriol. And now it's the same vitriol of the science. The science. Anyway, so just remember, my friends, don't shy away from these people. They don't know what they're talking about. That doesn't mean the scientists, the people who actually do the work. I'm saying they're little freaking jackbooted thugs who sit there and just regurgitate what they think they are told. But even if you look at, like, what's my man Peter Woit had written about Leonard Susskind over at Stanford, like, we are winning. The people who don't believe in the multi-universe theory are wrong. It's like, what? And they basically should be wiped off the mat of polite society. And you're like, what? What kind of scientific inquiry is that? And then, of course, a man who put in the comment, I believe in the scientific method. I said, oh, do you now? Let's see you use the scientific method. Ask the people who promote dark matter. Let's see what the scientific method they're using. Let's see it. I'd love to see it. Good. With the 4 stages of the scientific method, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but you can pick it up really quickly by looking for 2 seconds. And you come back and say, well, Google says I'm going to ban you. That's all there's to it, because that's idiotic. Again, the people who do it aren't idiots. To do that is idiotic. Well, Google says, like, oh. All right, love your thoughts.